there are lots of great stories about the battles. Maybe a word about Lepanto, which has a little bit of a following in the United States and is celebrated, of course, worldwide in the church in Our Lady of the Rosary, the battle, and also I really want to hear about this great Archduke Charles and
Yes.
Napoleon,
Yes.
he led a charge against
Yes.
Napoleon and defeated
Yes.
Napoleon, and that was one of the first defeats of Napoleon, correct?
The
In
first,
in
first,
1809?
the first defeat of Napoleon by Habsburg. So just to say, Lepanto, I celebrate it every year. I usually put on X a picture of either the bottle of Lepanto cognac or the rosary of both. We also have a tradition in the family to celebrate Lepanto mostly by praying a rosary, also by sharing a glass of Lepanto cognac. Um, it was a Habsburg that was in charge of that naval battle. It was Don Juan de Austria, an illegitimate child of Charles V, who was then legitimized by Charles' son Philip II, and had a brilliant military career. We sometimes had brilliant archdukes in our family, militarily brilliant. We had lots of brilliant, but in the military, there were a few real brilliant ones, and Don Juan was that. I give a lot of the credit for the success of this battle to Pope Pius V, because he basically, by diplomacy, brought together the alliance. But in the battle, of course, the, the the sailors, not the sailors, the soldiers went into battle with a rosary in hand. They had confessed, and Don Juan himself said, uh, "Whoever whoever um, curses during the battle or takes the Lord's name in vain will be court-martialed." So he wanted Christian soldiers, and it was an overwhelming victory, and it broke forever the power of the Ottoman, of the Muslim sea force in the Mediterranean, which had been terrorizing the entire Mediterranean. This was a case of a Habsburg that really led the charge, among others, and the other one was, of course, the incredible Archduke Charles. Uh, his story is so wonderful that I hope one day someone will make a great film about the Battle of Aspern, because it was a gruesome, brutal 2 day battle of brilliance, really brilliant. So we have to see, when Napoleon swept Europe with his armies, nobody could stand up to him. And least of all, one of the poor generals of the Austrian army, which was the very brilliant and very clever Archduke Charles, who at least was able to fight honorably and lead his armies to security several times in different battles, until finally his brother, the emperor, decided to put him in charge of the army and to totally reform the army. And Charles had studied the French, and what he did was prepare the Austrians to fight the French by using French tactics. And the moment he did this, just very little afterwards, came the great test. Napoleon was already in Vienna. Of course, the emperor had fled, and and he wanted to cross the river Danube near Vienna. And Archduke Charles had disposed his troops on the other side in a brilliant way, and and then while Napoleon was crossing, they floated down burning things, so that the army was always interrupted. So he could only land a part of the army, and that part of the army began the battle on the next day. And then it was a gruesome battle between the two armies near the village of Aspern. If you ever go to Aspern, which is not now a village but a part of Vienna, there is a church, and near the church there's a museum. And that church burned. There's a famous painting of that church burning. And and at the height of the battle, uh, the French were about to break through the Austrian lines, and Archduke Charles, on his white horse, where you could see him from far away, had killed him. Um, he took the flag and he rode towards the enemy, just like Caesar did it several times in the Gallic War. And he turned around the battle, and he that wasn't the end, but that was one moment where the Austrian lines would have broken
Yeah.
down. He personally, that image of this man on his horse is absolute iconic, and you see him as a statue on the Heldenplatz in Vienna.
Yeah.
He was a
Yeah,
very
and
humble man, also very happily married, deeply devout, and wonderful.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed today's episode, please hit the like button and subscribe to the Catholic Theology Show. Thanks, and God bless.